Hi everyone, I'm Vivian and I am here with these gentlemen. We have Swooty from G-Men, Legil and Scooby from Bossfight, and a dark figure named Smoils from Beginners. Global Chem was invited, but they are just so busy being Global Chem. Yeah, so and I actually watched this game at OC5. And I was sitting with a friend who is a journalist. He said, I can get Thunder Pilot for you for your show. And I said, okay, but do I want the team that lost? Could you get me these guys instead? How is it for you guys? How long have you been here? And what keeps you around this community and active in it? What makes it special?
I think I was watching videos on YouTube, and I happened to come across a couple of Onward videos. I saw this game, and I was like, wait, there's stuff that lets us play this right now. I need to have that. So at the time, that was before the Rift motion controllers came out. And so I bought a Vive, I got on, and I played literally all day until my eyes hurt. And that was actually when I met the people that wound up becoming the beginning of Bossfight. So Bossfight has been in this literally like as long as people have been playing competitive Onward. In the early days, we were actually playing weekly tournaments, and it was a giant pain to organize these tournaments because there was no website or anything to help us. It was all just done through Discord, and it was a crazy mess. And I think everyone sort of breathed a sigh of relief when VRML came along and gave us a little bit more structure to the way that we could compete, and also not have to compete 10 hours a day on Sundays, to just have sort of a more relaxed way to compete and be ranked over a longer period of time.
That was the worst part.
Speaking of newer teams and kind of surprising, maybe what you guys are used to, the way that you've always been playing, have you guys seen anything that just totally threw you off?
I think the most interesting times are when you're playing in just public lobbies, and someone will. It's probably in public lobbies that I see the most interesting things, and I'm like, who does that? No one should be in that spot. It's like, you get frustrated because you got killed from just some random spot.
I actually was in a public lobby yesterday with a lot of League players, and we were watching a guy who was sitting on Suburbia in between flowers, and everybody was dead besides that guy, and we were all like, I need to try that.
Oh yeah, like being in the bush.
Yeah, let's check it out. Yeah.
Yes.
And I wonder if we'll see it in one of the first coming games.
I have seen people successfully last season use dead bodies to hide in.
Oh yeah.
As they're lying down, or actually just
playing
probably
my
dead.
Body dead.
Right, or
Oh,
just
yes.
playing dead and throwing their things on the ground, except for the rifle near their hand, which is probably the most time-consuming setup I've seen, but it actually worked out. I'm not sure if it was an actual match or not, but I was impressed nonetheless.
I've seen people try that a time or two. I've seen it with varying degrees of success. The real problem is that without full body tracking, when you lay down to play dead, your legs are still going to be like all in a nice straight line. So anyone who knows that like bodies tend to die like sprawled out in Onward, or like piled in a heap or folded on themselves, the moment you see a guy nice and straight out, it's like, I need to shoot him. He's playing dead.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's funny because I was in quarantine and someone shot me from the tank courtyard, and I shot them. So it was a trade, and their body kind of was propped up, so it looked like they were still squatting and looking. So I was like, he's right there, and I was like, for a full minute calling out a dead body. I'm like, guys, I don't know why he isn't double tapping. He's looking at me right now. Go shoot him. You guys are really good because you know the map so well, and so then it becomes something like playing chess where people can keep playing it. It's a different game every time, but nothing has changed about chess, which is what I often think about. What if they just completely switched up, I don't know, downfall? Like, do you guys think that is a fun thing to do, or are you like, no, this is the way that the game is played, specifically on this map? What do you guys think?
I guess the last thing that changed up on downfall was the lighting, right? Like the the rooms used to be like super dark, and you could just kind of stay, like a defender could kind of just stay in the darkness of the room, but they added those little standing lights, which kind of, I guess it kind of changed up the way. I don't know what you guys think. I think it
I
probably
think
changed up the way people play the angles.
talking about some of the biggest changes that have been made to maps in reverse order. So Subway is a map that until very recently, like the beginning of this past VRML season, Subway is a map that was traditionally dreaded by virtually all players for a couple of reasons. Number one was the map used to have a very uninteresting flow, just a circle. And basically any team defending only ever had two places they needed to defend at any given time. Traditionally, that was the north stairwell and the south stairwell. If you just cover those two stairwells from more angles than they can be attacked through, it was just so uninteresting. And then the flip side of that was that there was an objective that Marsoc could get to just as fast as Volk, and it was a nightmare just to even think about playing on that map. They've made some changes. They've added some extra tunnels. I think that the changes that they made to Subway made the map go from boring, uninteresting, and a complete advantage to the defenders to now the map is actually like a coin toss. I think that it's just as favorable for both teams as like a Bazaar or to a lesser extent like Suburbia or maybe more like Tanker or something. A map that sort of affords just as many opportunities to both teams versus like Downfall, where the defending team sort of sets up and the attacking team cannot do anything without finding someone and killing them. And oftentimes, like the person that you find is already aiming at you the moment you find them. So you end up in these situations where like you just have to make plays happen or you just lose. You just fall apart. Whereas like on a map like Tanker or Suburbia, Bazaar, and now Subway, to my point, there's sort of strategic opportunities in there beyond sort of the tactical level. You don't necessarily have to win a gunfight against someone to get into an advantageous position.
Right.
Downfall is all open. You need to win a gunfight to get into an advantageous position.
I mean, part of it even is just there's little quirks to every map, like this car is penetrable, this car is impenetrable,
Right,
this cell
yeah.
tower is impenetrable, this
Yes, I have feelings about that.
this fence is like this chair you cannot shoot through, but this chair you can't. It's like finding every little detail of the map like will be to your advantage because I can hide behind this and beat them on a peeker's advantage or something, or like they can they can try to shoot me, but I know that I will be covered, that kind of stuff. So every little detail each map has to be learned, I think, at some point.
Also, the spawns, the way the spawns line up are super, super, super important. There are certain objectives where when you spawn as either Volk or Marsoc, like someone on your team needs to run to a specific place and shoot at a specific direction, or else the other team suddenly like has all these extra possibilities. There are certain objectives and certain combinations of spawns where one or both teams can effectively shoot the other team within the first half second of play. There's actually one that I just recently learned on Suburbia where you can literally see the players standing in spawn. But the point is, there's a lot of places where it really matters the possible places Marsoc can spawn and where Volk spawns. Like both teams need to be very cognizant of those possibilities. I know that on Downfall, for example, there's the dumpster objective, I think is what most people call that building. And when you spawn in, someone right away needs to go and stand on that wall to see if they've spawned down the street from dumpster objective. And conversely, the team that's playing Marsoc on that objective, they need to all get their heads down before the round starts so that they can't be spotted. So like that's something that if the map was procedurally generated or if you just never played before, you would never know that. There's no way that like you could just intuit that just by being really good at games. Like you're going to spawn potentially in line of sight of the enemy team, and you just need to know that that's a possibility and get your head down. And that's a factor in almost every map to at least some degree. Obviously on some combinations it's a much bigger factor, but that amount of learning is something that all teams have to do. And getting back to your original question of what if they changed everything up, I would need to see a really compelling like plan for how they were gonna pull off changing it up. Like Swooty pointed out, that there has been some inconsistencies with the way that objects perform on the maps. People like to talk about like bulletproof lawn furniture on Suburbia.
Yeah,
There's
about that.
there's a lot of other inconsistencies. I do know that cars being penetrable in some cases, car windows in particular, in some cases are penetrable. Sometimes they're not penetrable. Vans, I think, typically are made out of all bulletproof glass, but cars have some bulletproof glass. It's a clown show sometimes.
This is a good piece of advice to newer teams as well, to really get in there, put in the hours, not necessarily as a team, but especially the players. Just go to comp lobbies. If you see Hooch's comp lobby, go in there. You will find every little detail about the maps, and you will learn the ways of those maps of Onward. And when you have that and you can communicate these little things to the team, then you're a step forward already.
Is there a tipping point, do you think, that
Yeah,
as
definitely.
as long as they keep playing, at some point they will be able to compete with the top teams, even though they started, a couple years behind?
I can only talk for the EU, but I really see progress. I've only played for a little over a year for in the competition now, and I remember when French Onward Union was okay, a lower team. Now they really progressed and are really not an easy team anymore. The same with Vikings. I'm a fan of Vikings. Last season, if we played against Vikings, it was okay. Let's put up the B team, or let's try some new stuff. But now we really have to use our A game to beat them, and they even can won against us in ESL in the ESL Cup. So those are teams that really kept on going, and at some point, yeah, the tipping point, they get there, and I'm really looking forward to what they can deliver next season.
Yeah, I would say like we just scrimmed a new team. I mean, speaking from someone like I joined in season 4 to G-Men, and I don't remember what we placed, but we had no callouts learned, like no defenses set up, didn't know any of the map, kind of like intricate details. So like those three things, like callouts, for your team to know callouts is massively like to be able, let's think of Bazaar. It's like over there by the tank versus, tank courtyard behind the wall, like or whatever you want to say, like blue room, like Bazaar blue room, little hall, like all of these callouts that get more specific are going to help your team so much. Like knowing exactly where to look versus just a direction of where to look, kind of.
For example, French Union that was mentioned, they've become better than they were before. So I think we'll see more interesting games in the future.
You guys have met in real life. You've met your teammates. You guys have gone to events, to LAN events, and now we have one coming up. Does it make you excited or nervous?
The only nervous thing for me is that beginners and global cam had a lot of not practice but experience on stage now. So they've and that's the only thing that frightens me a little.
There's obviously differences for anyone who plays on a play space bigger than what the LAN will be. That's going to be a big change.
But I do need. I'll cut it short because it's a lot to edit. But I do want to do it again, probably after the event, if you guys would be interested to talk about, how it went and everything. But just lastly, what do you guys think? Who's gonna take it? You're gonna take it? This person?
Yeah, you have the right team in front there. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
I feel this is a placeholder, right? I'm always like, when are they gonna change their logo?
That's the best logo ever. It's
yeah. No, I agree.
It's not a placeholder. It was a placeholder before, but I changed it.
I would like to see this happen.
That
Not
would
because
be-
not because I don't love these guys. But this would be, let's shake it up a bit, right? I think that would be cool. That's it. Thanks so much, guys, for the time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I haven't done anything.
Yeah, Smoils, you talk too much.
Thanks, Smoils.